Thank you, Dr. Runge. Thank you, everyone, for being here. As Dr. Runge said, I guess we were trying to I'm speaking to the panelists as well, because I have not, with the exception of Dr. Harvey's across the hall from me, I haven't spoken to any of the panelists at all about this. But it certainly is an open discussion for them, for the audience as well. As with anything that I moderate, my goal is to not say anything. But with a journalism background, I'm more than happy to ask questions if it comes to that. The panelists would probably rather have your questions than my questions, so that is going to be our focus here today. We are going to start, though. This is really the only direction that they got, was that they would be asked to give about a 2-minute, whatever angle they want to take on what academic vitality means to them at any level, whether it's personally, for the university, for the world of academia as a whole. And by luck of the draw, we're just going to go down the row. So we're going to start on the end with Dr. Duncan and move down to Dr. Tucker.
All right. Well, I'm definitely going to make use of the microphone today. I'm fighting allergies right now, so excuse my voice. Taking this idea of academic vitality and trying to think about how many different possible meanings academic vitality, I'm sure, has for all of us. Not just for me, but all of us as we're considering this and how this fits into our place in the university mission and the university mission and our place in our respective colleges. The way that I can really consider it is as a part of the overall mission statement. So, and I think that this holds true not just for me personally, but also among my colleagues in my department, in the Department of Philosophy and Religion, and my colleagues in the Gender Studies program, and my colleagues in the College of Liberal Arts, right? We think about academic vitality as one part of academic vitality, integrity, and diversity, some sort of cohesive understanding of our university mission. And in that way, right, the idea of vitality ends up meaning something like enriching or enlivening our academic understanding. And I think through methods related to diversity and integrity. So integrity in our disciplines, integrity in our academic pursuits, understanding the diversity of sources and people and students and how that contributes to our overall enriched understanding. And so I sort of took that definition as the framework for my conceptual framework, right, for academic vitality. And in that way, I think I'd actually like to speak just very briefly about how I think that diversity and integrity play a role in my understanding of vitality personally, my understanding of academic vitality. So thinking about diversity, right, as the director of the Gender Studies program, I'm obviously very sympathetic to diverse needs, diverse students, diverse approaches in academia. The Gender Studies program is itself an interdisciplinary program, which means that my colleagues, the other faculty who work in this program, they're coming from across the university, not just from across the College of Liberal Arts. And as a minor program, I also have students who are coming from a variety of academic perspectives, academic majors, who are coming together in these classes devoted to gender studies. And they're being enriched by the diversity of their positions and perspectives, the diversity of their experiences, and being able to bring those together in the classroom, right, in their studies. So this is really how I personally see this being enriched by diversity in academic vitality. The only space for them to have this opportunity to be enriched by the diversity is if we consider diversity a part of the academic mission, right? A part of the curriculum, a part of the way that we teach our classes, a part of the characteristics of the students in our classrooms, and all of that is connected to our academic pursuits. So my research is geared this way, my teaching is geared this way, the assignments that my students are completing are geared this way, and there's really an intersection then between diversity and academic vitality, right? This enriching experience of academic vitality. I think that only makes sense, though, to consider diversity as a way of enriching our experience academically and the experience of our students at UCA. That only makes sense if we actually maintain a faithfulness or a disposition of integrity in our classrooms as well, right? If we're faithful to our approaches and being honest in what we're teaching and how we're approaching the material and how we're approaching understanding our students, and if we cultivate honesty and discourse with our students as well, so that they feel free and open and are sharing their experiences, right? So I see integrity as an essential component of this too. But what it all comes down to, and I think this is why I was so privileged to be a part of this panel, right? What it comes down to is all of this is contributing to the enriching and enlivening the academic vitality of UCA. So that's really my take. It's personal, but it's also about the interdisciplinary nature of the Gender Studies program and some of my colleagues in my college.
Thank you, Dr. Duncan. Dr. Harvey.
When I was told this was about vitality, I decided to put it to a test. So I flew down to Austin. I spent this weekend at the Austin City Limits Festival. I got on the plane at 3:30 this morning, and I made it back in time for my first class this morning. Taught my second class, and we'll have a class after this. I've had the fortune of being an administrator of several departments in the College of Fine Arts and Communication, and these last 3 years of being in a department which is in many ways built around the very notion of vitality. If I could pick up on something that you alluded to, we do have to maintain that integrity and honesty to our traditions and to our methods, but our students are changing, and I think as a media professor, that's become the thing. And as I reach the end of my teaching career, it's staying in touch with how the students learn, how they process information, so that interdisciplinarity, the connections, can become a part, a fabric of their education. I learned long ago, long before I came to UCA and other universities, that students that were actively involved in making things, I'm one to talk. I'm kind of a theoretician, but teach theory, but then apply that theory and then see what you can create from that. That's, I think, been the joy for me in mass communication, film, and the theater program and journalism. The students are so involved, and they're so involved outside of themselves. They're so involved in the act of creativity. One of the other questions that we were asked to talk about was, can you measure it? And I would say that's a really good question, and I would say that you can. You could measure it, especially over time, using the many approaches that are brought to us by administrators, by research and in improving. But maybe as faculty and as learners, what we need to do to keep our vitality and know that we can measure it is not to be afraid to take risks, not to be afraid to perhaps even make a mistake and then learn how to deal with that and teach our students that they too have that chance to try something. And it might not be quite right, but next time it'll be different. And you then start to observe how those changes happen in the student body. So those would be my opening comments.
All right, Dr. Pepper.
Thank you. I'm in the College of Natural Sciences in the biology department, and I've been thinking about vital as meaning things like vibrant and energetic and enduring, and in thinking about those qualities, it seems to me that especially in the natural sciences, there's some important ways that we engage our students and the scientific community and the community at large in ways that are vital. In the classroom, I'm thinking about the fact that no matter how much students change and how much technology changes, one thing that doesn't change is that having an instructor who's genuinely passionate and excited about his or her field is really compelling. And so I think that in that way, vitality and interaction with students in the classroom, and also in engaging students in undergraduate research and in creative acts in general, is part of, vitality. In addition, speaking, from the natural sciences, I'm thinking about scientists involved in the vitality of their discipline. And so this really vibrant scientific process through contributions in terms of original research, as well as engaging the public in disseminating research. And so there are lots of ways and opportunities to do that. The College of Natural Sciences hosts lots of science nights around town and in surrounding towns at which elementary students and middle school students and parents come. And those are opportunities to convey in a really hands-on, active way the vitality of the scientific process, and that it's relevant and that it's engaging and that it can be very hands-on and creative. I was with students this morning at the Jewel Moore Nature Reserve, and that's another place on this campus where we present, the vitality of this really exciting intellectual academic endeavor, engaging the public in tours of this amazing resource that we have, and taking hundreds and hundreds of students every semester to the Nature Reserve. And then also in terms of community engagement, demonstrating that this scientific enterprise really is relevant to important social questions, important environmental questions, that when I see our faculty members quoted in news articles about pressing local problems, that makes me feel like that's a way that we present the fact that this is a vital enterprise, that it's something that's enduring, that it's something that's exciting, that it's something that we feel really, really committed to and enthusiastic about. And so in those, specific ways, in terms of interacting with students, interacting with our colleagues in the sciences, and then interacting with the community, I think all of those are ways where we can engage people on the campus and outside the campus in what we think of as a really vital enterprise.
All right. Thank you. Dr. Phelps?
When I think of academic vitality, I think immediately of remaining a learner, that we remain a learner as faculty members throughout our career concerning our discipline, as well as, and my bias in faculty development comes out here, as well as teachers. And we continue to develop our craft and our skills as teachers. I believe that academic vitality involves our modeling certain traits or habits of mind for students, such as perseverance, patience when we can't understand perhaps a concept. It also involves challenging ourselves and stretching ourselves to do something maybe we've not done before, so that our students will take those risks like Dave mentioned. Becoming better at our craft, to me, is just an essential part of academic vitality. I think if we reach a point where we feel like we have arrived as faculty, we know everything about our discipline, or we know everything about how to teach, then I think we've lost our vitality. And so continually staying engaged in our craft and in our discipline would be essential parts of what this means. I heard a short talk by, I wrote his name down, Randy Nelson. He was former president of Pixar, and I think he crossed over to the other side now, the other industry. But he said that he was talking about what kinds of workers he wanted to hire in Pixar. And he said, I would much rather hire someone who was interested versus interesting. And that has stuck with me for several years. I think we have to show that we are interested in things, in learning more, and that we want our students not to become just interesting people, but interested in the world and in continued learning.
All right, thank you. Dr. Snyder?
So when I think of the question, what is academic vitality, I think it's similar to asking, what is a good golf swing, right? So you see professionals with different grips. One professional has an open stance, one has a closed stance. But what is a good golf swing? In my opinion, it's the one that gets the good result, right? So if you're thinking about what is a strong academic program, in my opinion, it's the one that gets the good result. So you can have different programs. In the College of Business, whether you're an accounting major, a finance major, economics major, marketing, or management major, will their education produce a good outcome for him or her, either in job search or in graduate school admission? Right? So think about, how do you measure whether we have a strong academic program? There has to be some way of measuring it. So you can look at job search, or whether they got into the grad school they expected to get into, or from a university level, retention and recruitment as well. But that's hard to measure because you have a lot of factors that's going to influence retention and recruitment. So trying to think about what type of program would produce a good result, I don't think there's a real good answer. So you have which classes, for example, should be in an econ major or a finance major or management major. What's the optimal class size? How much resources should be devoted to teachers or classrooms, or landscaping, or the new swimming pool, right? So I think there's all kinds of ways to get the result that we want to get. Just like the golfer, there's all types of different swings, right? So I don't think you could say this is the way to do it. If you told every golfer you should swing like Tiger Woods, most of the golfers would do worse, except for Tiger Woods, right? So different teaching styles, different learning styles in each person. So what is academic vitality? My answer is I don't know, but we could look at the result, and if you make people accountable for it, so if a teacher or administrator is accountable for it, they will find the best way, right, to get the result.
Dr. Tucker?
So it's interesting to get 5 different perspectives, all very good perspectives. I'll give my perspective from the College of Health and Behavioral Sciences, but I think what I say can translate to any college or department on campus. When I first found out that I was going to be on this panel, I decided to consult with Bill Gates on what vitality was. And by consulting with him, I mean I typed it into Microsoft Word and went to review and hit thesaurus. And what it came up with was brilliant, lively, were some other words that can be used in replace of vitality. So when I think of that from our college perspective, I think we fit that very well, because I think that education is more than didactic learning in a classroom. Taking notes and looking at PowerPoints and filling on Scantrons, that's the basic information that you need to know, but there's also the application of it. And so that, I think, was where our college, and I think other colleges can say the same thing, but we thrive in that because we are a very much hands-on learner application college, a lot of clinical laboratory experiences, tying in with research, and tying that together with why we do clinical things, because there's evidence-based practice to support it. And I think getting students to understand that is very important, even if they don't go into research. We have a vast faculty in our college. We have clinical instructors that served years as clinicians and practitioners, and now they love to teach, and that translates into how they teach. We have researchers that were clinicians and practitioners before they got their PhD, making their research clinically relevant. And I think that the goal is to translate that into what the education is of these students at the undergrad and graduate level. It's getting them to understand that there's the application of the knowledge and why we do it and the research behind it, and problem solving and thinking independently. And I think one of my greatest thrills in my job is getting a student who gets that, who comes to me and says, I want to be involved somehow, whether it's clinical experience or research experience, and they're not asking for extra credit, and they're not asking to do it as part of a coursework or a makeup or an independent study, but they want to. They're passionate about it. And that to me is vibrant and it's lively.
Patty mentioned, each of our individual development as a faculty member, as a teacher, as a learner, as somebody that's willing to take risks. I think it's important for the university to make those resources available so that I was in a department once, and the senior faculty member always wanted to be the one to give the speech of whatever we were talking about. And I said, well, why don't we ask some of the younger faculty that have just graduated from some of the new graduate programs? And I think he thought that was not a very good idea. But I think it was a really good idea. Start to incorporate the newness that's coming out of the universities across that are drawn to the university. Look at I will just say, probably the old person, Patty. Yeah, I mean, I'm always blown away with the talent, the integrity, the vitality, the attention to diversity. The fact that learning is a verb. It's not a thing. Yes, there are those things there, but finally, it's can you use them? So I don't know. There's a start.
Dr. Peppers?
Yeah, I was going to say that it's difficult for me to imagine with either integrity or diversity or vitality the idea that somebody's in charge of those things and enforcing those things, and instead I'm sure the hope is that those become a culture, that we have a culture of academic vitality, and that this is a place where the intellectual endeavor is exciting, and this is a place where we value that and encourage that, and instill those kinds of skills, that, like you said, by modeling. What does it mean to be a learner and a really active participant? And so I'm thinking that, even if you cannot say it's possible to make everyone in charge, there's no question, as you said, that everybody's a stakeholder, and that this is an endeavor that no one person could enforce. I'm the enforcer of vitality, but that really it should become a way that we view what a university is, that it's a place where it's a really, a vibrant intellectual place. So in terms of responsibility, I think it has to be, something that we all see ourselves as active participants in.
Dr. Phelps?
I picked this up off my desk right before lunch. You probably can't see it, but it's what you add to a nameplate when you're at a conference, and a lot of times it'll say presenter or board member. I got this at the teaching professor back in May. Actually, I took several extras because it says, I had an aha moment. And you're supposed to get these as you go to sessions and then stick them on your badge so that you've got like this rainbow look effect. And I thought, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about, I think, this afternoon, having an aha moment every day as a faculty member. And it's not just the students we're trying to lead to having aha moments, but we need to be having them ourselves too. So I wish I could give everyone one of these, but this is the only one I have today.
Anyone? Dr. Nucken?
And just to develop on this, so I think that it's problematic if we say that there's someone that's going to be responsible for any of these elements of our university mission, right? All of them are necessarily collaborative. If I was solely responsible for academic vitality, then you would have only my perspective and only my background and only my academic endeavors, and as soon as the usefulness of all of that died out, the vitality would die out too, right? It wouldn't be enriching or enlivening anymore. So I think this is something that we're all alluding to or talking about, is how important it is to really take this not as an individual responsibility, but as a culture of responsibility, of shared responsibility, right, to be able to make it possible.
Anyone else? Dr. Tucker?
Yeah, and I'll just give an example of how it can work and how the culture is developed, in that maybe everyone's responsible, but with different roles. And I'll use IDC as an example. So if IDC wants to put something on, they need support. So the support has to come from above, correct? So the support, whether it's financial or otherwise, comes from above. So Dr. Phelps is able to put on a session for instructors at the university to come to and learn something new and develop something new that translates into how they're going to teach their students. So I think at some point everyone is involved with different roles, though.
General education, I mean, there's another place to start. I think you need a general education program that builds identity, that deals with the connections between our disciplines, and encourages that learning is an aha moment. And you can have the same aha moment across disciplines. And I also think that a university, look, I'm an English major. I have done so much in my life. I have done so many things with that degree that never were thought of by my professors. And I had a really great general education program. And so it's even those lists that, that committees create. If there's thought behind them, I think that's a part of vitality as well, and money.
Okay. Anyone else, Dr. Peppers?
Yeah, I think with regard to the UCA core, there has been really extraordinary institutional support for the development of a core that is that has an identity, unique to UCA. What type of student do we want to graduate? Do we want to have as the representatives of this institution? And so I think we do now have a very distinctive core program that is expansive, that is broad, that allows depth in particular areas, and that's progressive, that students are building on knowledge. So I think there has been a lot of support there. I think from my perspective, and I did see this, and I saw this in the movie, and I was glad to see it. One thing I'm thinking is that I hope that as the public, I hope that the public face of this institution becomes one that is broadcasting the fact that this is really an intellectual place, that this is a place where academic excellence really is our goal, and that other kinds of development are part of that we're producing whole individuals, not just developing the mind, but that the life of the mind is being really central to what goes on at UCA. I hope that takes sort of central, is front and center in the public face that we put out there.
All right. Other questions? So let me ask you a question. You've each given kind of examples within your departments or your individual views on academic vitality. Campus-wide, how would you say academic vitality rates at UCA? Dr. Snyder?
So I don't think it really matters what we think. It probably matters what the students think. So.
All right, what do the students think?
Oh, I don't know. We have to do a survey. So, I don't know.
There's some here.
Yeah, so we can ask them. But yes, I think ultimately it matters what they think. And if we see them coming here, increase enrollment, then we can't necessarily directly relate it to academic vitality, but we can say that there's a good chance that we have a strong academic program. Right? So really have to get their feedback, I think.
Okay. All right. Okay, so we don't have their feedback right now, but we got U6. So other thoughts. Campus-wide, is UCA achieving these points that you have made?
Well, I think one place, I would say yes. I would think one place to look would be the Bearer Ledger. If you just skim that publication online, just to see the variety of involvement that faculty are showing. That's evidence to me. I mean, when I look over that, I go, oh, wow, that's neat. They went to that conference, or they've won this award, or I think it's a wonderful thing that your office puts out, because it does help us stay connected across disciplines, across colleges. So that would be my evidence, would be in that source.
Very quickly, a survey, but also to improve the lines of communication from the students up, so that we know where we can't keep up with the students, so that we can rise to the challenges that they're giving us as educators, because they often know, certainly in my field, things before I'm aware of them, and I get my aha moments. Every class ought to be, what do you think about that? Was there an aha moment? What can we do? I look at the student involvement in the production in our college, and it's just overwhelming. And it is the kind of thing where they're not asking for extra credit. They're just saying, can we make something? Can we do this? Can we take what you're teaching us and film a session, or tape a session, or photograph a session?
I was just going to add that I think, with regard to your question about have we achieved it, I think that may be difficult to assess, but maybe more important is, are we pursuing it, and have we clearly stated that that's a goal? And I think that simply clearly articulating that that's a goal and that that's something we're working toward, that in itself seems really powerful to me. That, in my courses, I'm never thinking they've arrived. I'm thinking it's a work in progress. But the fact that, the fact that I'm engaged in, and the fact that I'm attempting to improve and better those, that in itself is, a worthwhile undertaking. So I think the pursuit of vitality, we can certainly find lots of evidence of that, even though we may not know when are we vital enough. We can certainly think about, having stated it as a really clear goal.
Yeah, and if we ever achieve that point where we thought we were vital enough, right, we'd run into that problem again where it would die out. Vitality is itself an enriching process, right? It's procedural, so there's no way to assess that final end goal. But I think there are clear ways that we can show, just in the past few years, improvement at UCA about cultivating this culture, this environment, right? I think you can see clear examples of bringing in more guest speakers, creating more interdisciplinary or cross-disciplinary endeavors, having the growth of the learning communities, right? I think all of this is a really clear indication that we're developing some of this culture. I definitely personally, right, see opportunities, money for conference funding, right, to continue to grow and develop in these ways, but it's a process of growth and essentially just procedural, right? We have to go through this constantly in order to keep vitality alive.
Well, I think that, I'm sure it's true in other colleges as well, but I certainly know that in the College of Natural Sciences, the degree to which undergraduates have opportunities to get engaged in original research and at a level that typically is reserved for graduate students, I think that's unusual, the degree to which faculty members solicit student involvement and provide opportunities for real original contributions, not just sort of manual labor, not just preparing things, but actually contributing to the intellectual enterprise of scientific research as an undergraduate. I think in the sciences that's unusual and distinctive, and speaks really highly of the fact that we walk the walk, that the student engagement has to be part of what it means to be vital. So I think that is unusual. There are other institutions that aspire to that, but I'm really impressed when I walk down the halls in terms of what's going on in research labs at the sophistication of the work that undergraduates are able to participate in.
And I'll kind of do a follow-up question that you might throw in as well. And no fair, sane money, but in what areas is UCA lacking? In what ways is it excelling, but also are there areas where UCA is lacking in its vitality efforts? I stumped them, apparently. Dr. Harvey?
I think one of the things that I have valued at UCA I've been here 17 years, and there have been changes. A lot of our students, and I'm speaking now of the students that I know the best in fine arts and communication, whether it causes difficulty for them, for their families, many of them have and are starting to dream big about, it's not come to college to get a job so that I don't have to move. It's to come to college to have an aha moments, many moments, and do whatever the problems are that I find to be important in the world. So to see the students realizing that we are educating them into a world where there are environmental impacts, where how people interact with one another are central, not peripheral, and that you can't ever finally answer it. It's always got to be a revolution. I think that's one of the special things about UCA. I've taught at other universities where the movement went the other way. It was always moving in and to steady rather than to grow and to follow the problems, follow the Bill Gates, to follow the, who was your...
Randy Nelson.
Yeah. You know, there are moments in my class when a student will come up with an idea and I'll say, you know what? Most of my idols dropped out of school at least a little while to go finish a good idea, and that's one of those ideas. And I don't really mean to drop out of school. I don't mean that. On the other hand, some of them have been that good. And I think when you see that kind of creativity, that type of, oh, wow, that's a sign of vitality.
Dr. Tucker?
I won't say that it's lacking, but I would say it's a work in progress, and that has to do with crossing those disciplinary lines, interdisciplinary education, training, research. I think we're going that direction. This is only my 6th year at UCA, and when I first got here, I got kind of the impression that people were waiting for someone to initiate that. They needed one person to say, all right, it's time for all the colleges to get together and departments to get together, and let's start doing some interdisciplinary education and research. And that's just not how interdisciplinary education works. It starts at the ground. It starts with faculty, meeting other faculty in other departments, finding out their interests, their research, finding out if there's ways of collaboration, educating their students on other disciplines in the college, outside their college. So I really feel like it starts at the ground and works up. And I think UCA has learned that it's not going to be one person that tells them to do that. And I think now it's happening. And I think in the years to come, it's going to develop more. So I'm not going to say it's lacking, but it's a work in progress.